Stressed and swamped from all his IAs, Jerry is screwed. He's making mistake after mistake, not knowing exactly how he got here, even though it's been spelled out to him by his teachers and classmates when he was a beginner. But who the hell are they to tell him he's wrong? Everyone gets no sleep in the IB. Everyone cries in 15-minute intervals. Everyone speedruns their IA the day before. And so, instead of spending his time studying or planning his TOK final, he goes off on Reddit about how the IB is a scam. Bjorn. As a beginner to the IB, Bjorn did his research. In his head, he's always wanted to go to a good university, Cambridge, USC, or Harvard. But to do that, he was presented with a choice, to take the IB or to not take it. Having done his research and the classes that might interest him, he takes the IB for the sake of his future. As a beginner, Bjorn's 45 friend told him the IB is very achievable if managed correctly. And thus, with those tips, he enjoys his last high school years while everyone else is studying and gets a perfect 45. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Joaquin Ravello. I got a perfect 45 in the IB, and I'm currently a student at the University of Pennsylvania studying engineering and business at the School of Wharton. So before I actually took the IBDP program, I was in the MYP program, and I was actually not getting that good grades. I would get on average maybe like 5s and 6s. I remember getting 1.7 though in social studies. But because of that, I was actually pretty anxious, as people would come up to me all the time telling me about how difficult the IB is. And these were the same people who took the MYP a few years earlier. So coming out of the MYP program, I thought that if they said it was much more difficult than the MYP and they were struggling a lot through it, I thought that the IB would be exponentially more difficult than the MYP. By the way, if you're currently in the MYP and you want to understand a little bit more how the IBDP is different than the MYP, you can check out my previous video on that. I'm going to link that in the I right here or in the description down below. So with that being said, understand that it's completely normal to be stressed out about the future. In fact, I was stressed out about the IB before it started. But an interesting study showed that 85% of the things we actually worry about don't end up happening. And as Mark Twain said, one of my favorite authors, I've suffered a great many catastrophes in my life. Most of them never happened. So the point I'm trying to make ultimately is that I was told that the IB is scary, that it's going to suck my soul. That is absolutely not true. It is definitely manageable under the correct conditions. And while it's true that the IB can still be managed, how do we do it? That's what I'm going to be covering starting right now and for the rest of this video. And while it's true that the IB can be managed correctly, how exactly do we do that? Well, that's what I'm going to be covering in this video. And stick until the end, because throughout all these strategies, you might get a simple mindset shift or a different way or a different strategy or something that you can be doing differently that you can implement into your own life that will change your life forever. Also, throughout these videos, there's going to be Easter eggs, which are little codes that I scatter throughout my videos that whenever you find one, you can link them into the description down below into grizzlyelite.com/Easter egg. You put them in there and then you get access to some special resource. So the first thing you need to understand about the IB as a beginner is to have a game plan, develop clarity on what it is you're studying. First of all, if you haven't done so already, you need to familiarize yourself with the IB. Spend your time understanding all of the ins and outs of the IB, your statistics, how you'll be measured, everything that you possibly can. This literally takes maybe like a few hours to understand, but it will pay dividends because you gain that clarity and you're not wasting time inefficiently on areas that don't matter. For example, I work with a lot of people who end up stressing so much about their IAs. While those are 20% of your mark, most people actually end up neglecting or disproportionately spending less time on studying for exams compared to the stress and time that they spend on the IAs. And that's why correctly understanding all the ins and outs of the IB is essential. And I made an entire video explaining all of that in the link here or in my channel as well. Also want to outline that there should be a video on my channel where I go through the exact 2-year plan of how the IB looks like, what to take into account, how to study differently. You can find that on my channel. If it's not there already, it will be posted soon. So clarity is absolutely essential. And there's a few more things to understand. Number one, you need to understand the IB, which we talked about. Number two, you need to be clear about what your study strategy will be. And then the most important thing once you have clarity on your study routine is to enact discipline and stay consistent with that. I would spend a lot of time identifying what I like to call your metrics, which are ways that you're going to gauge whether or not you're staying successful. So for example, study time itself might be a metric. In order for you to succeed in the IB or in really anything in life, identify what those key metrics are and then looking to maximize them will almost guarantee success. So in this case, if one of the key metrics that you know contributes to your final goal of maybe getting a 45 in the IB, if that key metric is study time, look to maximize that. Another metric could actually be study quality. Maybe there are certain past paper questions that you do, whatever the case may be. If there's a certain metric on the quality of time you spend on high quality studying, you need to maximize that as well. Another metric could also be your energy energy, maximize that. Another metric could be your rest and recovery, which we know is essential for high performance. And then finally, probably one of the most obvious metrics are your grades. So at the end of every exam, look at your grades, look at the numbers you got, look at how you can improve, note that down. The most important thing you need to understand is gaining clarity with where you are right now, where you're going in the future. And one of the best ways to do that is through tracking your metrics. So you can use that by using your own journal, such as the tabular journal, which I created back when I was in grade 12, that allowed me to do exactly that, track my vital metrics and habits. Or you can use a habit tracking app as well. And notice that one of those habits can actually be a metric. For example, a metric could be how often do I spend my time studying on the bus versus distractions. So the point ultimately here is to identify which metrics are most important for you and then go about staying disciplined for those for a prolonged period of time. This is really where I think the IB kind of turns into a game. You can gamify the entire thing, because one of my main metrics in grade 12 was maximizing the time I spent doing past paper questions. And once I optimized my schedule for that, literally just doing as many past paper questions as possible, the IB was basically broken at that point. Why? Because you got to remember, the IB is a standardized exam. So by the time I started to realize how the IB questions were made, how the IB examiners think, which basically just came by doing as much practice as possible, the entire thing was basically broken. So remember, throughout history, everyone did this. Leonardo da Vinci wrote in his journal. Benjamin Franklin had his habits, his discipline that he would practice and track every single day. So do the same thing. It might be difficult at the beginning to get into that habit, but once you start rolling, it becomes very, very easy moving forward. So track those metrics, some of which, just suggestions, can include consistent studying as well as optimizing your energy. Next tip for beginners comes from my grandpa, where I basically learned from him that one of the easiest ways to become successful is the importance of simple disciplines repeated over a prolonged period of time. So once you have your metrics, how do you turn them into a habit? Start off by doing one push-up. Before I got seriously into working out, I would only do one push-up every single day. So basically I would get changed to work out. I'd be all in my workout gear. I would then go to the gym, set up, do whatever, drink my water, and then I would do one push-up and then leave. Frankly, my gym was just my bedroom. But the point is, after 6 months of literally just doing that every single day, just going and then doing one push-up and then just putting on my shoes, taking them back off, changing back into this, I built the routine of executing that habit. And then the thing is, once you have that routine in place, it is very easy to scale it up. Most people fail with their habits because they try to do way too much at the same time, right? For example, once you have all these vital metrics, everything you're going to track, all these study routines, if you're not removing something from your routine, if you're not making it easy for you to do your thing, easy to the point where you don't need to think, it just becomes habitual, it is not going to happen. So instead, swallow your ego for maybe like a month or so. Instead of a push-up a day, maybe it's just one past paper question a day or something very simple so that you build that routine. The way I would do this most of all was through my paper 1 economic exam, which was 45 minutes of a 10-mark question and a 50-mark question. Before the exam got here, I was doing those every single day. And the way I built up by that is by literally sitting down, choosing the question, putting literally like 3 bullet points of what I would write about, and then stopping. And then I would do that consistently for a month until it became habitualized. And then I got that into my habits. So from that, notice that you can start to pre-plan habits that you want to do in the future by simply doing something very simple. So let's say you have like 7 or 8 habits that you want to work on right now. Instead of trying to do them all at the same time, do one. And then for all the other 7 or 8, make them very simple things that you can then plant the seed in and just do something very simple, like 10 seconds long, going to the gym, for example, doing one push-up, 10 seconds long, spread that throughout your routine until those acts of doing the simple thing become a habit. All right. And the final tip right here for beginners is to understand the IB disproportionate leverage curve. This essentially means that there are certain tasks that are more valuable than others. There are certain tasks that if you are to do, give you significantly more ROI. If you've ever heard of the Pareto principle, basically 80% of the results come from 20% of the task. The exact same thing applies with the IB. This is why I wouldn't fully stress with your IAs all that much. Sure, they're important, but what I found is that if you spend all your time trying to study and trying to thoroughly understand the content, the IAs become so easy. And more importantly, you're applying disproportionate leverage because 80% of your mark comes from the exam. And notice that we can actually apply disproportionate leverage again. Of that 80% of the exam mark, you can apply Pareto principle again to the method that you're studying, meaning that 80% of the studying is going to give you 20% of the grade, and 20% of the study is going to give you 80% of the grade. And this is where it becomes very important to go back to tip number 1 of gaining clarity. Understand exactly how to study, what is most effective for you, and really nail that down. And then what you can do actually is, and this is what I did to really identify what's the most valuable studying I do. At the end of every single day, get out your journal and write out what were the most valuable things you did of that day. What things gave you the most output? right? Reflect back on your day. What things gave you and made you the most progress? Write those things down and then cut away maybe one thing that is the least valuable of that list. And then don't do it anymore or vow to do less of it. Then continue to repeat this process for a prolonged period of time, cutting away all the fat, all the tasks that don't matter until you've identified the few tasks that give you the most output. And that right there is disproportionate leverage. Those are the few tasks that help you out the most. And with that, you just found a disproportionate leverage Easter egg. All right, this Easter egg right here is called Grizzly Roar 28 with a capital G and a capital R, all one space. So simply type in Grizzly Roar 28 with capital G and capital R 28 into the link in the description down below at grizzlyelite.com/Easter egg. You can unlock this Easter egg right here. Is an excellent one. I know you're gonna like it. The Easter egg is actually titled Making Your Study Time 6.5 million% more valuable. So check it out. So those right there are some strategies that you need to know if you're going to become successful and things I wish I knew before I started taking the IB. Now, the question for most beginners becomes, should I take the IB, yes or no? Well, understand that there are many reasons to take it and there's also a few reasons not to take it. I would argue that the benefit gained from taking the IB far surpasses reasons to not take it. For example, even though it is a challenging program, the challenge itself builds your character, which I think is just one of the most important things that anyone can have. And with that, you also get that college admissions, you gain those skills, and you better prepare yourself for university. So that is it for this beginner style tip video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Joaquin_Ravello. I do my best to answer as many DMs as I possibly can right there. Also post a lot of lifestyle updates there on my Instagram, such as vlogs of my life in the M&T program or things that I'm reading, things that I'm learning, a lot of workout things that I'm doing. I just ran an ultra marathon actually a few days ago. So you can find all of that on my Instagram. And if you have any questions, let me know there. And until next time, stay grizzly. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.